Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to this talk. Adam Sudd is one of my favorite humans, one of the most amazing humans I've ever met, and it is such an honor to be up here introducing him. Adam and I actually met at Plantstock 3 years ago, the last Plantstock that was at the Esselstyn family farm, and since then, we've become the best of friends, and in the past year, Adam and I have grown even closer. And we are now working together on a research study, and so I'm just talking with him all the time, and you're going to hear more about that later in his talk, but it's such an honor to work with him in that capacity because as much as this research study is near and dear to both of our hearts, it's really Adam's baby. And to be able to work with one of your best friends and help one of their dreams come to life is the greatest gift ever, and I get to help him do that. And so that's amazing. But the talk that you're here to hear today from Adam is about addiction, but that's really just the cover. That's the introduction that got you here. But ultimately, Adam's story is about being human. It's about facing your dark parts, rising strong, and embracing all of yourself. It's about using this process and this transformation to regain that sense of meaning in your life and live to the fullest. Adam's story is my story, and I'm willing to bet that it's also yours. And also, Adam is one of the most amazing public speakers and storytellers that I have ever seen in my entire life. So, you made the right choice by being here today, and you're gonna love this one. Enjoy.
I love you so much. That was beautiful. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Tara. So, how's everyone doing? Good. So, I'm going to tell you guys my story. I call it A Journey from Pills to Plants. It's a catchy title. But really what it is a journey from shame to love. And I'm going to start at the beginning. This is my family. That's my mom, my dad. That's my twin brother, Bobby, and my little sister, Jewel. Now, I'm a seventh-generation Texan and a Jew, which means I grew up eating burgers and barbecue and bagels and blintzes, all right? Sort of like something I like to call the standard American diet, wearing cowboy boots with some chutzpah, all right? And I had a great childhood. I played sports. My dad, he taught me how to play basketball. He taught me how to play football and baseball. My mom inspired me to dream. She showed me the power of imagination. My twin brother, we've shared literally our entire lives together, even before we were born. And my little sister, Jewel, is one of the most special people in my life. But even with all this incredible, wonderful things in my childhood, there were some things that profoundly affected me growing up. And one of them was my relationship to food, and more so my relationship to myself. For whatever reason, and most importantly with the best intentions, I was criticized quite a lot for wanting to eat bad food. And over the course of time, I began to believe that there has to be something broken in me. There has to be something wrong with me because for whatever reason, I cannot avoid doing what is so easily avoided by the people who love me, and I believe that if I couldn't do this for them, I wouldn't be accepted. And I got scared because I needed to be accepted and loved by my parents. I needed it so badly. And so at a young age, around age 10, I started to be a closet eater. I would run into the kitchen when my mom had left. I would grab food, I would run into the bedroom. I would close the door, I would turn off the lights, and I would hide in the corner. And I would eat alone in the dark. And I would do this because I was ashamed. I was ashamed and I was afraid. I was so scared that at any moment, that door was going to open, the light was going to come on, and my parents were going to see me for what I really was. This broken, shameful human who was not worthy of their acceptance or their love. And that was the most terrifying thing I could ever imagine. And at about the same time, I was taken to a doctor, and I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. So now I have a doctor in a white coat who my parents respect, telling me there's something else about me that doesn't work right. There's something else about me that's broken, something that the rest of the world doesn't agree with. But he prescribed a medication called Ritalin. He said, Adam, he didn't say these words exactly, but essentially what I heard was, as long as you take this pill, no one's ever going to know there's anything wrong with you. And from that point on, I believed that all I had to do, whenever I saw something about myself that I didn't like, when I saw something about myself that I noticed other people didn't like, or that the rest of the world didn't agree with, there was going to be a substance somewhere that I could find to hide it or fix what was clearly broken in me. And we moved to Austin, Texas, right before I started high school. So here I am, I don't know anyone. I start a high school at a very, very big Texas football high school. And I'm late to start puberty, I'm awkward, I don't know anybody. And at this time, they had changed my prescription of Ritalin to Adderall. And I get a call from one of my few friends. He says, Adam, there's this party this weekend. You got to come. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know anybody there. I was shy. He said, no, just come and bring your Adderall. I was like, why? Why would I do that? Oh, but if you take extra, it's lots of fun. You get all this energy. You're loads of fun at the party. Everyone's going to love it. People are going to love that you bring it there. Why don't you bring it? Oh, God, of course, yes. Of course I brought it. I wanted to be the person that other people wanted around. I wanted to be the person that could be there and bring value to other people. And man, I'm going to tell you guys, the minute I used Adderall as a recreational drug, boom, I was hooked. Not to the substance, but to what it did for me. I believed it was magically making me the person that I thought everyone wanted and needed me to be, and the person I thought I needed to be to finally feel complete and accepted by the rest of the world. Look, Adderall is an amphetamine. That is what this stuff is. It's medically pure amphetamine. So when I take Adderall, I have loads of energy. I was a little overweight my freshman year of high school, so guess what? Not a problem. I have no hunger drive. I had so much energy. I could go at 110% for 24 hours at this party. I was the life of the party, and I had so much confidence, I could immediately talk to anybody, and whatever they were talking about was immediately interesting to me. So now I'm able to make friends, I'm able to talk to people, I'm losing weight. At this time, my relationship with my dad was really struggling. He and I were not getting along because of my study habits or lack thereof, and guess what? When I'm on Adderall, I can study on anything. I can focus like crazy. It's making my relationship with my dad better. It's making me look like the person I thought I was supposed to look like. It's getting me the friends I thought I needed. This magic pill was magically making me the person I truly believed I needed to be, and it worked. This stuff worked for me in high school. And if some made me more the person I wanted to be, then a lot must do a lot more of it. And it worked so well. I had friends, I lost the weight, I had girlfriends, I got a scholarship to the college that I wanted to go to. Everything in my life was finally perfect. So why would I ever want to stop doing what was magically making my life exactly what I thought I needed it to be? But unfortunately, in college, things took a turn because more started to not be enough. And not enough started to become an overwhelming concern in my life. How much do I have left? How long will it last? Where will I get more? How much will that cost? Where will I get the money to pay for that? These were the reoccurring thoughts that overwhelmed my day every single day. And the more overwhelming these became, the less important my family, my friends, my schoolwork, my passions became, until these concerns became the most overwhelming concerns in my life, and I dropped out of school. I told my parents I was dropping out because I wanted to come back to Austin to start working in the industry that I was studying, which was film. And it's true that I did have a job, but the real reason I came home was because I knew that if I went back to Austin, I knew the doctors I could scam, and I knew the dealers that I could buy from. And I quickly fell into a life of a criminal substance abuser, where I was doctor shopping. This is where you have multiple doctors prescribing you the same medications without them knowing about each other. This is a felony. I was forging prescriptions. This is another felony. I was buying drugs on the street. I was selling drugs on the street. I was stealing from people in order to get what I needed. I was consistently treating my family like absolute garbage. The only time we would ever interact with each other was for me to get things from them so I could get what I needed, or to blame and shame them for every single thing that was wrong in my life. I started to isolate, And I developed a dependency to fast food because when the drugs were gone, I needed something. And there's a quote: "Nothing records the effects of a sad life so graphically as the human body." My life got a little bit out of control. This was me at nearly 350 pounds. When I say that I was struggling with food issues, I would get up every single morning and I would go to a place called Torchy's Tacos. And I would get 4 or 5 potato, egg, and cheese breakfast tacos. Then I would go to McDonald's and get 2 supersized double quarter pounder meals. Then after that, I would go to a place called Whataburger and get the extra large honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich meal. Then after that, I would order an extra large pizza from Papa John's with the beef topping and a side of the chicken strips with a honey mustard dipping sauce. Then at about 3 in the morning, I would go back to Whataburger for 3 of their breakfast on a bun sandwiches with sausage. During the day, I would drink around 15 sodas. And when I say I was struggling with substance abuse, the average prescription for Adderall is between 5 and 30 milligrams a day. For the last 10 years of my issues with substances, I was doing 450 milligrams in a 24-hour period. I would do this for 7 days straight. I wouldn't sleep. By the day 5, I would enter a drug-induced psychosis where I would start hallucinating. I would hear things that weren't happening. It would be very difficult for me to know what was going on, and I would develop incredibly destructive, obsessive-compulsive tics, one of which was I couldn't stand to feel my hair touch my ear. And one night, I was up all night, and I was brushing my hair forward and back off my ear because it was bothering so much. And I was doing it for so long and so hard that in the morning when I went to the bathroom, all the hair had been brushed completely off the side of my head. When the hallucinations would get too bad, I would end up needing to pop opiates so that I could get myself to come down and finally go to sleep. My life was spiraling out of control. My family wasn't talking to me. I wasn't talking to them, no matter how many times they tried to reach out to me. But it was at this time of my life that one of the people who has never given up on me, my dad, came to me and he said, "Adam, Whole Foods Market has just partnered with this crazy plant-eating family named the Esselstyns, and they're creating this event called the Engine 2 Immersion. And right now it's only available to Whole Foods Market employees, but I can get you a spot if there's one left. Will you please go?" And I honestly know the reason why he wanted me to go. He wanted me to see that it was still possible for me to make some kind of positive change in my life. And maybe that would inspire me to know that there was never anything that was too far gone in my life. But I'm going to tell you why I said yes. I said yes because I knew if I did, I could get him to keep giving me money. That's all I cared about. I didn't give a shit about the Esselstyns. I didn't care what they had to say. I certainly didn't want to learn what they were teaching. And I didn't want to do this for my dad. I wanted to do this so I could take something from my dad. So I went to the immersion. I brought drugs. I was high every single day. I was so disruptive to Rip, the team, and the participants that there were discussions throughout the course of the entire 7 days about whether or not I was going to be removed from the program. And I honestly believe that if Rip wasn't the quality of person that he is, if he didn't look at me and say, "This person is really struggling. If anybody needs to be here, it's him. No matter what struggles he makes this for me, he's staying." If that hadn't happened, I don't know if I'd be alive. I went to every lecture. I listened to everything that was being said. It all made sense. It spoke to me, and it spoke to a core value in me about how I want to treat non-human animals. I grew up in Texas. My grandmother inspired my love for nature. When I was born, there's a story that she took me outside, and she put my hand on a leaf and said, "This is nature. Be nice to her, and she will always love you." And so it spoke to this value in me that spoke to me and my grandmother, and I wanted this to work. I wish I could tell you guys that I heard about all this amazing positive change that this lifestyle can make, and that was it. End of story. My life got better. And in fact, the last night of that retreat, there was a man named Dick Beardsley. Dick Beardsley is an amazing man. He's one of the greatest marathoners in history, ran one of the most historic Chicago marathons against a guy named Alberto Salazar in the 1980s. There's actually a book about it. It's an incredible race. But what he talked about wasn't his history as a marathoner. He talked about what happened after his career as a marathoner. He was working on his family farm, and he got caught up in machinery, and he nearly died. And he ended up developing a dependency to substances like painkillers. And that dependency got out of hand. And I listened to this man talk about himself. I listened to him describe how he moved through the world and how he treated other people and how he treated himself. And I sat there listening to him saying, God, if anybody is ever going to be in front of me that I could walk up to and say, I need help, and know that he would not judge me for it, it's this person. Can this finally be the day that I ever walk up to somebody and say, I need help, I'm struggling with drugs, I'm struggling with food, I'm scared, I don't know what to do. And I remember after his talk, he was sitting at his table and he was signing books, and I'm like 10 feet away from the guy. And I'm just trying to work up the confidence to walk to him and say something, and my feet, they're like frozen to the floor. And I thought, all right, wait until after he's done signing his books. Maybe I can go over and talk to him, just have a superficial conversation that maybe I could work up the courage to actually say what I want so badly to say. And I couldn't. I wasn't ready to give up what was allowing me to escape a life that was too painful a place to be. I wasn't desperate enough to be honest with myself and what I needed. Unfortunately, about 2 years later, I would come home from shopping at a place called Casual Male XL. It was the only place I could go where I could buy pants that had a 50-inch waist. And anytime I went out, which was a rare thing, I even had my windows boarded up so that people couldn't see into my room, into my apartment. I lived like a hoarder. I was very embarrassed of myself physically. I was embarrassed of my life. And it was a very revealing experience to be outside around people. And when I would look at people and I'd notice them staring at me. And I would imagine them saying horrible and awful things about me. And I would come home from shopping and I'd go right into my bathroom and I'd stand in the mirror and I'd take off my shirt. And I would start shouting at myself everything I imagined these people were saying about me. And as I said these awful things to myself, I would just start beating myself as hard as I could over and over and over again. The goal was, if I could just hate myself enough, if I could just hate my life enough, maybe, just maybe, then I'd want to change. If I could make my life so effing miserable, maybe then it would be worth it to me to change my life. The only thing that would ever end up happening would be that I would be collapsed on the floor, swollen red, crying, because no matter how hard I hate myself, no matter how hard I hit myself, I could never hate myself enough to want to give up what was allowing me to be able to move through this world in a world that was just too much for me. It was so overwhelming, I could not understand how what was once the greatest solution I had ever found in my life had now become the most insurmountable and unanswerable question I'd ever found. What once allowed me to escape a life I couldn't deal with was now doing nothing for me. I was still living in a painful life and now taking substances I couldn't stop taking that were making my life even worse. I remember having a call with my brother. I said, Bobby, I don't know what's going on with me. And I love you, and I want you to know that no matter how bad things get, I'm never going to commit suicide because I love you, I don't want you to live without me, and I don't want to live without you. But on August 21st of 2012, in this apartment, sitting on my couch, I'm thinking, you know what? Nothing's ever going to get any better. I can't figure this shit out. The only thing I could think of was to take myself out of the equation. Maybe then at least I'd spare my family the pain. And I attempted suicide by drug overdose. I grabbed a handful of pills, I threw them down my throat. Next thing I notice, I'm trying to stand up. My entire body cramps on the right side. Everything starts to go black. And you guys, the feeling of dying, and I don't mean the physical feeling, I mean feeling that you're about to die, knowing that you have just spent the last 10 years of your life completely disconnected from everything that was ever meaningful to you, is the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life. I woke up a few hours later in a puddle of vomit, in a pile of fast food garbage, surrounded by empty pill bottles, surrounded by no one, not because they didn't want to be there for me, but because I did everything in my power to make sure no one would be. I took a real hard look at my situation and realized that while I didn't want to live this life anymore, I didn't want to die. And that was a really empowering thought for me. It made me realize that if I was willing to make changes, maybe I could prevent the reality of my parents and my brother and my sister spending every single day of the rest of their life asking themselves why their son and their brother needed to eat and drug himself to death. I picked up the phone, I called my parents, and without hesitation, as soon as they answered, I said, I need help. And without question, none of this, oh, we know you had a problem for years and we've been trying to get you to see it. What took you so long? It was none of that. It was just, Adam, that's all your mother and I want to do for you. Will you please just pack a bag and come home and let's figure this out together. And 2 weeks later, they helped me check myself into rehab. Now, when you check into rehab, even if you check yourself in, the first 24 to 72 hours are pretty uncomfortable. I was strip searched. I had my bag searched. They run medical diagnostic tests on you. They do psychological evaluations. It's a very dehumanizing experience. I felt like a criminal. And as a person who hated himself and his body, the experience of having to stand naked in a room as nurses examined my body for everything that was wrong with it was an incredibly humiliating experience. But there's a very serious reason for all of this. One, as a person who is living a high-risk life, they want to make sure that I'm aware of everything that's going on with me. They want to know if I'm trying to bring in anything with me that I'm not supposed to. Guys, I was very high when I checked into rehab. I would not have been able to do it. The experience of having to walk away from my parents down this long hallway towards the detox center, watching them and hearing them cry behind me. If I wasn't high, I wouldn't have been able to make that journey. And they want to know what kind of psychological situation you're dealing with, sort of a baseline understanding so that they can help you craft a road for recovery. And at the 72-hour mark, I got a note saying that I needed to go talk to the doctor. And so I walk into the doctor's office all arrogant and shit, and I sit down and I'm like, what's up? Can't be anything wrong with me, right? And the doctor diagnosed me that day with type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, erectile dysfunction, bipolar disorder, suicidal depression, anxiety disorder, sleep disorder, and attention deficit disorder. He prescribed me a cabinet of medication for life. In fact, my chronic disease diagnoses were so advanced, my blood pressure was 220 over like 110. They had to have my heart rate and blood pressure monitored twice a day, every single day that I was in rehab, because they were so afraid I was going to have a heart attack. My resting heart rate when I got up in the morning was 120. And my whole idea of what I was about to do had completely been shattered. I thought, all right, I'm just going to get off drugs, 37 days sober, and I'll go home, and I can manage. That whole nonsense of me thinking that I would actually get it under control. And I left the doctor's office completely humiliated and completely broken, and I walked into the dorm room, and I picked up the phone, and I called my dad, and I told him I was leaving. He said, whoa, what are you talking about? What do you mean you're leaving? I said, Dad, I can't deal with this. I thought all I had to do was get off drugs. Now I found out I have diabetes, I have heart disease, I have these psychological conditions that I don't understand, and I can't do this. I'm gone. And he heard the fear in my voice. He heard me say, I just need someone to listen, and I need someone to see me. And the conversation that I had with my dad is the most profound conversation I've ever had with him. He said, Adam, let's just say for the sake of argument that these conditions are occurring, right? I'm not saying that you have diabetes and heart disease and some of these other issues, but let's just say for the sake of argument that you do. Well, at the Engine 2 retreat, you learn that a lot of this is reversible. You also learn how to reverse them. Adam, I want you to understand that if there's something about your life that you don't like and you can change it, then it's not a problem. And if there are things about your life that you don't like and you can't change, that's not a problem, that's just the way things are. And maybe you and I can figure out a way to look at it differently so it's not so overwhelming for you. And in that moment, the man I hated for most of my life stopped being my enemy and he became my ally. He helped me realize that if I'm the problem, I get to be the solution. I had to wait for nothing or no one to start taking charge of my life. In rehab, you don't really have a say over what you eat. You pretty much eat what they serve, and unless you let them know ahead of time that you're entering rehab with a dietary restriction of some kind. But they recommended that when I moved out of rehab that I check into a sober living facility. And the sober living facility was in Santa Monica, California, great place. And they talked about how the food was going to be really healthy and healing. And then I saw the cabinet, and I took these photos. And I looked at this and said, I may leave here sober, but I'll never leave here healthier. It was very clear to me that sobriety in and of itself was not a path to life for me. Sobriety in and of itself is simply an absence of using. I would die within 5 years if I continued to eat this way, and I certainly would not learn how to love myself if I continued to eat this way. So I walked up to the house manager, whose last name is literally Hamburger, and said, listen, I can't eat this stuff, and you guys are required to provide me with food. What can we do about this? And Phil looked at me and he said, Adam, all I want you to do is tell me what you need to be successful. And I'm so happy that he was willing to do that for me. But I still got up every single day pissed off. Because I would walk up and I would see these options, right? You guys see the top, there's Fruity Pebbles, and there's oatmeal on the right, okay? Now, I liked oatmeal. I liked it then. I love it now. I liked it then. But I loved Fruity Pebbles, okay? And I would stare at these options, and I knew exactly what would happen if I chose the Fruity Pebbles. It would continue to fuel my disease. It would continue to make things harder for me. I also knew the benefit of choosing oatmeal. I knew that it would help me to create a positive change in my life. It would help me to reverse these conditions. So why in the world, knowing these two things, would I still want to choose the Fruity Pebbles? Why was this not simply a matter of intellect and will? Why could I not know what to do, want to do it, and that's it? And it was a struggle for me. I would get up every single day fighting this thing that was going on, and I felt so much shame about it. There's got to be something wrong with me because for whatever reason, I can't not want to do the thing that I know is bad for me. And then I read a book called The Pleasure Trap by Doug Lisle and Alan Goldhammer. And it talks about this biological mechanism that compels us to continue seeking out behaviors that create the greatest dopamine response because this is our body's way of knowing that we've done something biologically beneficial. Whatever the behavior is, if the dopamine response is high, your body perceives it as beneficial. So what I learned was that essentially every time I did Adderall or any drug or ate a bowl of Fruity Pebbles, my body just went, bravo. Whatever that was, anytime you have an opportunity to do that again, you go for it. That's got to be the right thing to do. And as soon as I understood this, all this shame was lifted from me. Because I realized when I was standing in that moment, facing down those two decisions, knowing what to do in order to restore my health and still wanting to do the wrong thing, it wasn't because there was anything wrong with who I am. It wasn't because there was anything wrong with me. It was because my biology was doing exactly what it was supposed to do, given the environment that I've been living in. And that if I were simply to make this choice and choose oatmeal long enough, eventually it wouldn't be a chore. Essentially what it taught me was this very invariable truth to lifestyle change and recovery. I had to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I had to get up every single day, and if I was willing to do this long enough, eventually the oatmeal wouldn't be a chore. If I was willing to do this long enough, eventually I would look forward to these choices. And so you have to find a reason why. Why would I be willing to be comfortable being uncomfortable? You've heard people talk about defining your why. And from anyone on the outside looking in, it would be obvious. Oh, well, he's obese, he has diabetes, he has heart disease, he's struggling with substance abuse, and he nearly killed himself. Those have to be his motivations. Those things were occurring, that's true. But those couldn't have been further from the truth in regards to my motivation. Yeah, I was obese, and I didn't want to be. I had diabetes and heart disease, and I didn't want diabetes or heart disease. And I nearly killed myself from substance abuse. And I realized after my suicide attempt that I didn't want to die. Why not? What was it about my life that I loved enough that I was willing to be comfortable being uncomfortable in order to experience those things more completely and more authentically? I had told myself that I tried my entire life to hate my way back to life, and it only made things more difficult. It only fueled further disconnection from my truest self. The only way I was going to be successful was if I loved myself into a positive life. I don't believe people remove negativity from their lives. I don't think that that's how it works. I think that we choose positive actions. We choose to show up best for ourselves, and over the course of time, those actions take over the negative. I was going to love myself back to life. And over the course of 3 months, I would get up every single day and I would make a plate that was about health and wellness. It was about choosing to be a healthier version of myself today than I was the day before. And I began to learn that this was truly an act of self-love. This was an act of self-care. This was me saying that regardless of how I feel about myself in the moment, I have the choice of showing up for myself with love and acceptance, recognizing that I am the person I've always needed to be to take charge of my life. My blood glucose dropped from 390 to 70 in 3 months. I stopped taking the medication without talking to a doctor, which I don't recommend anybody here doing if they are on medication. And I went to go see my endocrinologist at month 4. And we had a conversation. We had done some blood work. And sit down. He says, well, Adam, I got to tell you that according to your blood work, you're no longer diabetic. And I said, well, then according to my blood work, I no longer need your services. And I shook his hand, and I walked out of the room feeling something that I hadn't felt in a long time, self-worth. And that self-worth made me feel like for the first time, I was worth saving. I was worthy of doing this for me, not for my parents, not for anyone else, that there was an inherent true value in me, that I was significant just by being alive. It helped me learn that discipline was simply choosing between what you want now and what you want most. What I wanted most was to be the most authentic version of myself so that I could be with the people I love and have that just be enough. As soon as I started my life of abusing substances, I stopped being with people, I started using people. I wanted to be enough of myself so that I could be with people, give them me, and have that be everything I ever wanted. That I could allow them to see me, and they would allow me to see them, and that we could have a true connection. I wanted to reconnect to those things in my life that were truly meaningful, that made my life feel like I was alive. Over the course of 10 months, I lost 100 pounds, and within a year, I was off of every single medication I was put on in rehab, including the antidepressants, the mood stabilizers, the sleeping medications, the anxiety medications, and the ADHD medications. This happened not because I focused on what was the matter with me, but because I focused on what mattered to me. It allowed me the opportunity to sit in moments and say that whatever I'm feeling, it's healthy, it's human, it's valuable. That I want to be willing to experience the entire breadth of human emotion without judgment, without shame, whatever it is. See that fear and anger and anxiety, they make sense. It is so reasonable that I would be anxious and fearful and angry a month into trying to get off of substances and a month of changing this lifestyle. It makes complete sense. This is not an indication that there's anything wrong with me. This is a meaningful signal that my body is giving me to help me learn how I best move through this world as my truest self. And in avoiding and trying to fight those feelings, I miss the temporary opportunity that my body is giving me to learn how to show up best for myself. I learned that we do not feel because we are broken. We feel because we are whole. Feeling is the most human thing that any of us are going to ever do in our lives. It's the one thing that I know that I have in common with every single one of you here. At the end of the day, we will have all felt. And in my ability to ignore and shame myself for some of those feelings, I was missing out on some of what is best about being alive. I've lost about 200 pounds as of today. And there are some people who are very much responsible for helping me become the person that I am. And one of them is Rip Esselstyn. He's become a very dear friend of mine. When I met him, I was in survival mode. And survival mode is exhausting. I would do anything I could to put any toxic substance, whether it's food or drugs, to numb myself up, escape a life that was too painful a place for me to be, because showing up authentically hurt. And I wasn't capable of listening to that pain. But what Rip taught me helped me to build a lifestyle that allows me to stop surviving my day and start living my day. And when I get to live my days, my life is a beautiful thing. And so much of it is very much responsible for this man's unwillingness to give up on me at the immersion. The second is my mom and my dad. In 2009, my dad suffered a massive stroke. And he had a 10% chance of survival. And if he did survive, he would never walk or talk again. And I sat there listening to this message. I was still messed up at the time. Listening to this message, knowing that my dad was going to die without ever allowing myself the opportunity to truly know who he was as an adult, and without him ever truly hearing from me the appreciation that I had for him. In 2012, I attempted suicide. My dad nearly lost me before, again, we were able to reconcile our differences. Because of the gift that they gave me, my mom and my dad, giving me this gift of recovery, and because of the gift of plant-based nutrition that we have both adopted, I know that I never have to worry about getting a phone call to hear that my dad has died from a stroke. And I know that they never have to worry about getting a phone call in the middle of the night, hearing that I have died from an overdose. The only phone call they have to worry about is the incessant calls that I make telling them how much I love them. My mom and my dad are my role models for recovery, and I'll tell you why. I observed the way that they took the immense amount of abuse that I gave them, the awful things that I said, the awful things that I did, and watched them just listen and love me unconditionally. And I think to myself, what a gift it must be to take that from someone you love and say, whatever he's doing, it's not who he is. We may not love what he does, but we love who he is, and we see you. For them to say, Adam, we love you, whether you're using or you're not. We love you, whatever state you're in. And if ever you need us, we will be there with you, because we don't want you to be alone or feel alone. And I think to myself, whoa, what a gift that must be to do that for someone else. And what an amazing gift that must be to be able to do that for myself. And that's the model that I've used to base my entire self-love practice upon, that no matter how I show up for myself, I am enough, I am worthy, I am human. And that is enough for me to start every single day and have the courage to get up another day and move through this world as best that I can. This is a photo of my dad, as it was taken by my mom as they were walking me into the doors of rehab. And this is a photo of my dad and I running the race in Austin 3 years later, because they've literally walked this entire journey with me. They're my best friends. They're my mentors. I get to go to work with my dad. I have a relationship with them like I've never had in my life. And it's not because they changed. It was because I was able to do the work and return to the person I've always been. Recovery is not a practice in becoming someone new. It is a practice in remembering that we enter this world open and complete, accepting of all things. And as we move through this world, we develop these false beliefs that sort of close us up and break us closed and force us to believe that we need to be something other than we are in order to be accepted. Recovery is a practice in remembering. It is a return to the person we've always been and always will be. They've helped me learn this message. My brother, come on, right? My brother is the most special person in my life, and I don't mean that to minimize the relationship that I have with my sister. It's just an identical twin relationship is something very special. This was my brother in 2016. He was very depressed. He had diabetes. And I went to him and said, Bobby, can I give you a gift? Will you move in with me for 6 months and just live my lifestyle? Because I love who you are as a person, and that's all I want to do is help you become the best version of yourself. And he agreed. And we went and we met with Dr. Matt Letterman, who you may know from Forks Over Knives, and we did all of his biometric work and blood work and everything. And we went and talked to him, and Dr. Letterman said, are you on any medication for diabetes? Bobby says, yeah, I have metformin. He was on 2,000 milligrams of metformin, which is the highest amount you can take before they put you on something else. Dr. Letterman talked to me about what we were going to be doing, what we were going to be eating, all of the, the necessary things. And he took Bobby's medication. He goes, you don't need these anymore, and threw them out. And in 6 weeks, my brother's blood glucose was completely in a healthy range without medication. And in 3 months, he had lost 50 pounds, which is faster than I lost it. That's okay. He can have it. It's fine. A little twin competition. And this is great. This is a before and after, but I really want to introduce you to somebody. This is Bobby. And he is a very powerful voice in the animal rights movement. He's rescued 10 animals from slaughterhouse trucks. This chicken's name is Jackie Bob, named after Jackie and Bobby, who rescued him from a slaughterhouse truck. He has the most beautiful connection to non-human animals, one that I only dream of understanding. And knowing this, he goes into slaughterhouses and he captures footage. And he reveals this footage to the world. And he shows up with love to the slaughterhouse trucks as they're bringing the pigs in to give them water and be the one human hand that touches them with love before they die. And when I think of my brother, I'm reminded of a quote. The best heroes stand against evil, not because they believe they will win, but because it is right to do so. The best heroes do so not believing that they will walk away with their lives, but because this selfless act of courage is itself a victory. For my brother's courage and his efforts, that's why he's a hero. And for his unwillingness to give up on me, that's why he's my hero. My brother came to me one day and said, Adam, Joseph Campbell said that people are not looking so much for the meaning of life as much as they are the experience of being alive. And that's what you've given back to me. And no moment in my life has ever been better than that. Because that was the moment that I knew that I had finally reached the most authentic version of myself that I've ever been. Because by simply being with my brother, not wanting anything from him, his light was finally able to shine again. I'm so proud of everything that he's doing. He now works with Sean Munson, the director of Earthlings. I don't know if you've seen the film. If you have, caution if you want to watch it. It is worth seeing. As he says, unless you watch it, you don't know it, you only know of it. They're producing the follow-up film. He's a producer and cinematographer on it. And I'm so very proud of everything that he does. I've learned a lot of things in the last 7 years. In fact, this month I have 7 years of sobriety. The first is that I am not now, nor have I ever been broken. There's never been anything wrong with who I am. You guys want to know the reason why I weighed 350 pounds, had type 2 diabetes, heart disease, was using substances so much to the point to where I needed to feel like I had to end my life? It's because that's exactly what's supposed to happen. When you deny yourself the opportunity to love yourself on a daily basis, when you try to hate your way out of life, when you eat 5,000 to 10,000 calories of fast food on a regular basis and consume 450 milligrams of Adderall on a regular basis, this is exactly what's supposed to happen. There's never been anything wrong with who I am. I'm not broken. As I mentioned, I have been everything I've ever needed to be in order to change my life. If that weren't possible, change wouldn't be possible for anyone. It is in remembering this powerful fact that I was able to sit in those moments of discomfort and love all of myself, even the uncomfortable parts, and recognize that I'm worthy of every single thing that I have. I've only ever had 2 problems in life. I didn't know how to live as a healthy, physical, or emotional person. Everything else was a result of those 2 things. Once I realized, I don't know how to do this, and I also don't know any other way to do it, I was finally able to stop blaming myself and shaming myself for how I showed up in my past. I was able to say to myself and my past self, I forgive you. I forgive you for not knowing how to do any better and honestly doing your best. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for continuing to write my story. When I stopped needing to reread the first part of my story, I was finally able to show up now and start writing this part of my story. I was finally able to release all that shame I was carrying, believing I had done something wrong or that there was something wrong with me. Once I just stopped needing it to be blaming my past and just let it be my past and be okay with it, I was finally able to show up now exactly as I needed to be. Gratitude. I am so grateful for every single thing that has happened in my life. I'm grateful for the diabetes and the heart disease. I'm grateful for the obesity, the substance abuse, and the suicide attempt. Because all of these things have shown me what an amazing gift it is to be alive. what an amazing gift it is to be connected to other people and allow them to connect to me. To look at someone and say, I see you. You're human, you're alive, and whether I completely disagree with you or not, you're worthy of acceptance because we're here together, and that's enough. And give people the opportunity to do that for me. Also, guys, self-love is not part of this journey. It's the whole freaking thing. The weight loss, all that stuff is great. It's wonderful things. But the profound change isn't shown in a before and after photo. And I can make a statement like, the simplest change on your fork makes the most profound change of your life. And that's true to a sense. But this is the profound change I'm talking about. The connection, the love, the knowing that when you wake up, you know you're enough. You see your value. You believe you're significant. And you have people in your life that you love, that see that value and connection and significance in you, and you see it in them. This is what makes my life truly meaningful. This is what is part of what makes me feel alive. Human beings are creatures of habit, but we are more so creatures of meaning. And there are people in this photo who are here in the audience today and want you guys to know you are part of what makes my life so incredibly meaningful. Thank you so much. The next thing that I'm doing in my life is an amazing study called the Infinite Study. And the Infinite Study is the very first randomized controlled trial studying the effects of introducing plant-based nutrition on early addiction recovery outcomes. Amazingly, it is also the first randomized controlled trial to study any diet on early addiction recovery outcomes in a residential treatment center setting. So, I know, right? You'd think. But anybody who enters residential treatment today will be fed 3 times a day, and there isn't anyone who works in treatment and recovery that can tell them what it does or does not do for them. I have the most incredible research team. I have Tara Kemp, who is leading the research. I could not have asked for a better person to be the surrogate mother, as she likes to say, for this. But we're really excited. We're doing everything from microbiome studies, seeing how changes in the gut health relate to changes in your lipid panel, see how those relate to changes in self-compassion, resiliency, spiritual growth, anxiety, depression, obsessive-compulsive drug use. We are looking at how does food create changes in those mitigating factors that create recovery. And we are really just hoping to create a stronger foundation for which everybody who enters treatment can recover from. Essentially, we're trying to bring another piece to the puzzle. I'm really, really happy to do so. Before I end, I want to make one statement. Anybody here who knows someone who's struggling, who knows someone who's battled with suicidal thoughts or substance abuse, or if you just know anyone, which everyone here knows someone, go to those people. Tell them that you want to deepen your connection with them. Tell them that you love them no matter what's going on in their life. And if they ever need you, you'll be there with them. Because if you give them that, you allow them to be seen, you allow them to be heard, and it makes them feel significant. And for one moment, they may see the meaning in their life, and that moment may be the moment that they ask you to stay with them. And for the friends of mine who have lost to suicide, love you, I'll never forget you, and I'm sorry you missed your moment. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you.